Hi, this is Beyond Authentic, where we go beyond the mundane to tell you all about authentic witchcraft. My name is Lisa, and in today's video I'm showing you how to make this little mini travel altar. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, stay tuned. So I guess the first question is, why do you need a mini altar, or a travel altar as I've been calling it? Well, technically you don't. And if I link the video just up here, which is the video all about magical tools, you'll see that we don't actually need any of these. However, using them can actually help us get into the right headspace where we are doing something that is kind of ritualistic. So we are doing something that is on the magical plane rather than on the mundane plane. And for me personally, the reason I still use a lot of these tools in my everyday witchcraft practice is because it helps me delineate kind of a normal day or a normal part of my day to when I'm practicing or when I'm doing a working. Now, for me, having those tools, it just helps me get into that mindset. Plus, there are theories where each of these tools over continual use, they kind of build up almost like a muscle memory. They build up kind of like a lingering magical energy that you can sort of tap into that helps. So an example of this is if you go somewhere that's sacred, quite often you can feel that it's sacred. There's a different vibe in the air, there's a different energy about the place, and that can be true many years after it's been desanctified. So when you're talking about places that used to be churches, they still have kind of a bit of a vibe about them, even though it might now be a block of flats or a nightclub or whatever. So that's something that for me, that energy, that building up that energy and having those tools and using the same tools time after time after time just kind of helps. It also kind of helps with me knowing if I'm picking up an item, it's consecrated, it's kind of ready to go, it's switched on. And with tools, it's really easy to do that. Kind of, it's part of that, you know, pick up and go kind of stuff, which is why a little mini kit is ideal for that. Another reason why a lot of people have mini altars or travel altars is that you might not be out of the broom closet, which is what we call it when somebody who practices witchcraft is still kind of a little bit closeted and doesn't really talk about their practice or doesn't reveal their practice to their friends, family and loved ones. Now, you can be in the broom closet for many reasons. It could be that family and friends won't accept you. It could be that you come from a particularly religious background. It could be you come from a particularly scientific background and people around you won't believe in the things that you are practicing. So there can be many reasons why people choose to have a mini altar if you're not out of the broom closet. But also I know people that have got mini altars and travel altars because they've got kids at home and they haven't got the space to have an altar set up, and even if they did, they've got toddlers, things would get moved and nudged. Equally, I know people with pets that don't feel it's safe to have an altar where you might have sort of different flowers and things that aren't animal safe. So there's lots and lots of reasons that people opt to have these. It's also something where if you are on the go constantly, you might not be home. So you might not be home for the Sabbats, you might not be home when you want to do a working, and so you might not be around your altar. So a lot of people that travel will have travel altars or mini altars as well. So then that's kind of a bit of a background as to what it is, what's in it. Right, so first of all, let me show you what this is. This is one that I've put together in the last few weeks. This is from Poundland here in the UK. I think you can get similar items from Dollar Tree. Now, this is a little camping pot, so it's got two clips that clip up, and the idea is that you can cook your food on it, you can drink out of it. When you go camping, it's a really useful, multi-useful little tin. Obviously I'm not using it for any of that, but that's kind of what it's aimed for. And as you can see, I just liked it because it kind of looks a little bit like a cauldron, but not. You kind of, you know, if that was in your car, people would just think it's a camping stove or something. They wouldn't necessarily think it has any witchcraft connotation. So I thought that was a key thing. If you can't get one of these, you can get little tins in Boots and other places. You can get travel sweets. They're little sugar-free sort of sweets, and they normally come in a tin, very, very similar size to this. And you can take those sweets out, put them in a plastic bag or something, or just eat them, and then use one of those tins. Of course, you can use a Tupperware box, you can use a tobacco tin I've seen people use. You can use anything at all that you want that is just kind of small, that you can stick in the bottom of a handbag, stick in the bottom of a satchel, or stick under your seat in the car, whatever it is. So then, let's get into it, shall we? So this one is quite tight. Now, when you take the lid off, What I've done, and again, bearing in mind I'm not the best artist in the world, is I've actually just painted a pentagram onto the lid. So this will act as my altar setup. It can act, so I can place items on here. It can also act as the pentacle, one of the tools of the altar. It can also act as an altar tile. It can act as a little heat proof thing if you want to put candles on here, all of that. Now, this I've just painted with some acrylic paints. It's not the best, as you can see, because it's already chipping off this. And if you do want that to last longer, you can varnish it. You can use Hodge Podge. You can use PVA glue, kind of dipped in water, just a little bit mixed in with some water, and actually kind of put a coating over that. For what I wanted to do just with this, I am actually going to redo this at some point. So I'm fine if it gets a little bit scratched and knocked. This is a working tin for me. Okay, the next item I've got is actually some pieces of paper. Now, for me, I'm really funny. When I do paper magic, which I do quite often, if I'm writing something for burning, I like to use handmade paper, or I like to use special paper if I can. If it's something that's kind of pre-thought out, then I like to use a special kind of paper. However, if I'm on the go and I just, you know, need to do something right now, then I'll just grab whatever paper, the back of an envelope. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, where it's going to and the sort of magical energy involved doesn't require it to be a special handmade parchment that's been passed down, you know, papyrus from the Egyptians. None of that. It can just be paper. It can be a leaf. It can be whatever you need it to be. But for me, if I know that I'm going to do a working, I do like to use some specific paper. So this isn't parchment. This isn't handmade paper. This isn't any of that. This is a sheet of A4 copying paper. Doesn't look like it, does it? But what I've done is I've stained it with coffee. So literally all I did was put a tablespoon of coffee into the washing up bowl, actually in my sink, poured some hot water on so that the coffee would dissolve, and then just left it. So there's a little bit of sort of watery kind of coffee, about half a cup of coffee, strong coffee, in the bottom. I then just took the paper, put it in, soaked it in. But what I did is to then take that piece of paper, put it onto a plate, put it in the microwave and microwave it dry. It took about 2 minutes. Now, obviously, your microwaves will vary. Be careful, blah, 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 all the health and safety rules. But it does leave it this really nice sort of parchment colour, and it looks like it's old paper. And because you've microwaved it, you can just put it in the oven as well. You can blow dry it. You can leave it to dry overnight. There's lots of different ways of doing the aging process, but it leaves it this kind of really aged colour. Now, for me, that's kind of what I wanted to go for, because this is in my mobile kit. It's something that's on the go, but I still wanted that sort of, again, it's about that mindset. It's about getting me into that mental space of being able to practice. So using a special paper to do special workings on, that kind of, that thing, that shorthand really helps me out personally. It kind of gets me into the zone. And then what I've done is I've literally just torn it up into, I think I've torn it up into 8 pieces. So literally you can see kind of it builds into an A4 piece of paper. And then all I've done is taken the edges of the piece of paper. You can see this one's still a little bit flat there. I need to just kind of crimp that one a little bit. But if I show you this one, all I've done is with a lighter, I've just gone round. I held them all together like so, and just with a lighter very carefully burnt the edges just so that they singed, and then immediately using a little bit of water in a bowl so my fingers were wet, just then tapped off the edges just where so that the flame, kind of the embers, were just nibbling the paper, just to give it again that slightly more aged kind of parchmenty look. They almost look like mini sort of pirate spells, don't they? Or mini scrolls of ye olde scroll. Hear ye, I solemnly do declare. They look like a fairy tale scroll, which kind of, you know, it again, it maintains that kind of element. Now, obviously, this is more role play than it is anything else. You don't have to do this. You can just use plain copy of paper if you want. However, for me, again, it's all about the mindset. It's all about kind of putting me in that different space. This is not paper that I would use to write a phone number down on. This paper has been specifically made with intent. So from the minute that I decided that I was going to do this, the intent is there, which means that this becomes magical paper. Because when I was picking it out of the A4 pack, when I was soaking it, when I was doing all of that, everything I was doing this for was for this spelt in for this mini altar. So right the way from the beginning, it has that intention in it. So this will be used to do paper working, so I can do little freezer workings on the go. So again, I will be doing videos on paper magic. I can write out intent, I can write out invocations to goddesses or goddess forms or whatever it is that I'm working on. And so there's just 8 of these, and they sit really nicely just in the top of my mini altar. But as you can see, everything else is packed in here quite tightly. So what have I got in here? Let's go through some of the obvious tools first. I've got a little plastic bag. Now you might think this has got candles in it. It doesn't. This has a little glass bottle of water, and it has a couple of ovals, cotton ovals. Now these are just makeup removal wipes. Now the reason these are in here is because I have found from experience that these little bottles with the cork, sometimes the corks are not as secure as they could be. Now these are just ones that you get in a little pack. I got this in Hobbycraft, but you get them in a little pack, and they are glass bottles. They're designed normally for like wedding gifts. So when you have a wedding, so each of your guests go away with something, and they're normally filled with sweets or something, aren't they? But this is really useful. Now you can put a little sticker on this with a moon symbol or a sun symbol, and you can charge this under a full moon or just whatever moon it is that you're doing a working for, or under the full sun, and then you can use that. Now if you are going to drink this water, obviously you need to make sure that you're using it within 2 or 3 days, because this isn't going to be refrigerated, and you need to make sure that the corks are safe and all of that. If you are going to use water for drinking, do not put any crystals inside this, okay? Because a lot of crystals will leak out heavy metals or minerals that are not safe to drink. Also, some crystals will actually dissolve in water. Some crystals will actually disappear. So don't do it. It's just not worth it, okay? But anyway, for me, this is just pure tap water. I know, right? Classy. You can use mineral water or anything else. It's just so that on the go, you've got some water, so you've got the element of water there. You've got something to use as an invocation or a libation for the goddess, if you're calling the goddess and things like that. You've also got something that you can add another item to and use as a protectant, which I'm going to put it back in there just so I can show you, but I'll show you the other item now. And again, if you notice, I wrap the cotton wool around, or the cotton buds around the glass bottle. It just helps protect it, and the little bag just means if it does leak, it's kind of protected. So what can we put into that? Salt. So this is a tiny little bit of salt. This little magic bottle is one that I got in a set, but there is absolutely just very ordinary table salt. But table salt in witchcraft actually has a lot of magical implications. It's used for protection. You can use it to cast a circle. It's used in a lot of workings, a lot of spells. It can be used for a lot of different things. You can also put some of this into that water, shake it up so the salt dissolves, and then use that to cast a circle around you or sprinkle it in places. It just makes this little salt go further. Again, this is a tiny little glass bottle. These are normally not too strong because it's only a small glass one, but you know, they're strong enough for what I need. It's also, if you don't want to use these, you can also use the little salt sachets, you know, the ones you get from a takeaway place, sometimes from McDonald's, places like that. You get a little sachet of salt. You can use those as well, and just put a couple of those in your altar. If you like this video, please do give it a good old thumbs up, and also if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out here on YouTube, helps my channel out no end. Also, I will be having a subscriber giveaway when I hit 500 subscribers, which is less than 50 away now. That is phenomenal. So there will be a giveaway coming up, all with a beauty side, but also maybe something with the witchy side. Who knows? Stay tuned for that. The next item I've actually made, and this is a mini smudge, sort of smoke smudge stick wavy thing. I know, right? Technical terms. There is a word for it, and off the top of my head I can't remember what the word for it is, but I basically use it for smudging. Now, as you know, at the moment I can't use smoke for smudging because of Rufus's asthma and a lot of his breathing issues. So if we're in the house, I don't use sort of smoke, but you can, if you were to put a little incense cone in here, with the smoke coming up, you would then use this just to waft the smoke into all of the areas. Now, all I've done with this is just 4 feathers that I found on a walk. I literally went out looking for feathers and branches and twigs that I could use for wand making and things like that. And I asked the elements as I was walking, I asked the universe, you know, I haven't found any feathers yet, can you find me some feathers? I then randomly went through a field rather than cutting, well, across the field rather than cutting around it, I should say. And as I was right at the end of the field in a place that I wouldn't have found if I hadn't walked in that direction, there was a load of feathers on the floor. I think a fox had had a meal or something. I had found this fluffy one just on its own, and then I found the other three kind of there in a similar area where, you know, where there'd been a few feathers. So I picked them up, and all I've done is attach them. So if I hold that up, all I've done is attach them with some tape, and then I've gone around the tape with a little piece of leather that I've just glued on. And then this is a hagstone. So I love hagstones. They're a very key part of my witchcraft. If you don't know what hagstone is, it's also called a witch stone or a holy stone, and it's literally a stone or a pebble normally found at the seaside that has a hole in it. If I show you that there, so that hole isn't drilled, that's actually been done by the ocean with a little bit of an irritant that's gone in, and then over time that's caused an erosion which has caused that hole. So I've just bound that with a little bit of the leather sort of rope, leather kind of strapping, and I just bound that onto the corner there, because for me this represents two elements. It represents air because it's smoking, because it's like we're blowing the air around and moving the air, but it also represents the ocean. So it's kind of a twofer. So that's really useful when you're dealing with a small mini kit. You want to kind of double up where you can on various things. So anyway, that is something that I use quite a bit, and I will be doing a video all about kind of smudging techniques and things like that at a later stage in this Witchy Wednesday series. But anyway, that for me is a key part of my craft. Even if I'm just moving the air around, as I'm like literally as I'm sat here now, I can feel that fanning the air towards me. That's a really nice feeling. You can feel that element of air. And sometimes when we're talking about the craft and we're talking about magic, being able to physically feel something rather than just kind of a bit all energy work that sometimes you might not feel, that's a really nice thing. The next item is just a standard in most sort of practice, just a little mini tea, well, a little tea light, not a mini tea light, but that does lead me on to this little pot. Now, if I hold it up a little bit closer to the camera, you might recognize the lid and you might know what this originally was used for. It hasn't been used, I have to stress this, okay? So this was a sample pot given to me by the doctors, a piss pot. You know, where you pee in it and then you give it to them a sample. And this was a spare one that I had. Now, I could have used one of these glass ones, but I actually wanted to use a little plastic one for a couple of reasons. And if you notice on the outside, it's got a label, and it's got all these colours and some writing. And basically this, if I open it up, has some candles inside. And these, if I get it out, these are birthday candles. So birthday candles are absolutely ideal for spell work, for candle work, because they burn down really, really quickly, but they are all sort of, you get them in all the different colours. So I've just got 5 in here of different colours, and I've got some of the Cook's matches, so the long matches, and I've just taken the strike off of the matchbox, glued it onto a back of another piece of the matchbox, so it's double sort of thickness, double strength, and I've put that in there as well. Now, the reason I've got that in there is because, again, quite often we use candle work for lots of different workings and candle colours. The colours have different sort of elemental correlations and things. So, for example, I've written on here red, and I've written courage, strength, and sex. For green, I've written abundance, money, healing, and luck. And so it's kind of the colour correspondences that work for me, that I work with. Now, again, this is a really good little pot. It's watertight. Once that's sealed, that is ready to go. Now, you may have noticed I've also put a little bit of blue tack in the empty space at the bottom. Now, the idea with this is that I will take the lid off. I'll take the blue tack out of the bottom. Oh, there we go. Just pull that out. Place the blue tack on the lid, and then put the candle into there. So then this has got a bit of a wider base. I can also flip it, put the blue tack into the middle there, and actually blue tack it onto a base if I need it to be a bit more stable as well. So that is just, again, it's another way of keeping my candles secure when I'm actually doing the working, and making sure that they don't fall over. I could blue tack it onto the base here. You know, there's lots of different options that I could use. And again, a lot of times when you're using spell candles, the sort of you know, the ones that are this size, you might be able to pour some wax onto a surface and put it onto the melted wax to keep it safe. When I've got a small birthday candle like this, there isn't that much wax, so I really don't want to be doing that. I could of course use the tea light and pour on, but the idea with this tea light is that this will stay in the kit and I'll reuse it and reuse it and reuse it. Right, what else is in here? Well, I've got 3 crystals. Now these are just 3 tumble stones. Now a lot of my magic, a lot of my witchcraft uses the number 3. I've got a tattoo with the number 3 incorporated into it. I use 3 goddess forms. There's a lot of 3s in my life that kind of repeat, and so I always have 3 crystals: a quartz, amethyst crystal, a quartz, a smoky quartz ideally, but sort of, yeah, some kind of quartz crystal, and a rose quartz crystal. So the way I look at them, I've got amethyst, which is all around protection and kind of purity and spirituality. My rose quartz is all about love and positive energy, and my smoky quartz again can be used for purity and for protection. In the bottom here, I've got a patch. This just came from Wish, believe it or not. It's just a tree of life with the triple moon and a pentacle. So again, I can use that on the lid and just place that down as an altar tile. I can leave it in there if I want. Again, it just adds a little bit of cushioning so that some of these items aren't against the bare metal base. But it's also something that I can pull out and stand up and use in a lot of different places. So yeah, that is something that I use as well. And then practically, I have a little penknife. Now this came again from the Poundland, and this is my mini athame. Now this I haven't blunted, so this is still a fairly sharp blade. Now if you don't want to use this, you can use a little toy paper opener or a little toy sword, anything that looks kind of knife or dagger shaped, that is sort of small enough to fit in here. But because I'm quite pragmatic, I'm a very practical person, I'm a very practical witch, I wanted something that actually, do you know what, I can also use. So whilst this is technically my athame, it can also be used as a bowline, which is the cutting knife. But it's also got things like, you know, it's got a bottle open on there if I need it, a corkscrew, a screwdriver. This is just one of the little multi-tools that you can pick up from anywhere. And then the last item really is the wand. So if I hold that up, it's not a very attractive wand, but again, this is functionality over form. It does everything that I need it to do. So the wood itself is a little piece of silver birch. I've then glued on the top a piece of, again, a piece of quartz. This is more of a clear quartz with some intrusions, which I absolutely love. Then I've used some copper wire. Now underneath this rope, if I hold it like that, you can just about see, there are 2 pieces of copper, one going over this way and one going over that way, so it crosses over on the front. I don't know whether you can see that, and that just kind of holds that in place if I do it like that. As I'm holding it up, it looks a little bit like Doctor Who's sonic screwdriver, doesn't it? But it's not, it wasn't based on that. But the idea is that coppers are very good in conductor, so it conducts energy really, really well. And underneath here I've got copper from just before where that leather strapping starts, and it's wound all the way down that little bit of the handle. That bit's left bare so that as I hold it, the energy kind of goes into, from me, goes into the wand, and then it's literally just big enough so that I can place my middle finger, kind of goes there, my thumb goes on there on the last bit of the strapping, and my forefinger wraps round. So it's a really nice way of holding it, and then that little bit of copper just kind of fits just there in the little nook in my finger. So as I'm using it, again, that energy is magnified, directed, and sent out through the wand. So that is it. That is what I use for my mini altar. And again, this is all stuff that I have either made or I've found or I've bought for relatively no money. Again, I think probably the most expensive thing was probably the tumble stones. So if you don't have any tumble stones, you can get them online. You can buy them fairly cheap for maybe a couple of pound each. Or, you know, 3 or 4 for a couple of pound maybe, if you look. But you don't have to have tumble stones. Any stone, any pebble, anything can be a connective stone if that's what you want. If you work with crystals and you've already got some, use some of those small ones in there. Also look out for things like crystal jewelry, because if I'm wearing amethyst and quartz like I am in my earrings, then do I need to have this Do I need to have them in my altar, in my little mini tin? Of course not, because I've already got them. So I've already got that energy going with me. Again, with my necklace, I've got a lot of crystals on this necklace. Therefore, I don't need to have the crystals in my tin. But again, it's something that's useful to have. And what I really do like about this is that everything kind of packs away really neatly. As you saw earlier, it all just kind of breaks itself down. Now you can put like an altar cloth in here, like one of the small squares of fabric. You can use you know, tarot cloths. You can use just a nice piece of fabric that you found. You can use a handkerchief. I haven't got one in here yet, but you know, at some point I might add one in. But again, as you can see, it all just folds back in on itself and sits in there quite happily. And the only thing that I haven't got in here that I would need for some of these workings is a pen. But apart from that, it all just folds back in quite happily. You've got everything in there that you could possibly want. And there you go. Folds away, rattles a little bit, but quite happily, if that's in your car or if that is in your bag, no one's really going to wonder too much about what's inside. You can always just say it's a mini lunchbox that you had some soup in or something. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts about my travel altar. Let me know if you're going to make one yourself and what you intend using it for. Also, let me know your thoughts and feelings about Witchy Wednesday in general. What would you like this series to become? I do have a really big, exciting idea that I am working on behind the scenes, all around a downloadable book of shadows, and I'm working on that and just how we can make that a thing. So yeah, do stick around for that if that sounds like something you'll be interested in. Also, while you're there, why not check out the Authentic Army? If you go down to the description box and just scroll down where it says show more, you'll find a list of links to some really fabulous channels here on YouTube. They're all small creators and we like to keep it 100% authentic. So whether we're doing unboxings, reviews, whether we're doing makeup tutorials, whatever it is, we tell it as it is, regardless of any PR kind of lists or anything like that. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, do check out those channels down below. But that is it from me today, and as I always say, stay you, stay safe, stay authentic, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.